This episode has been brought to you in part by the Azrieli Music Prizes. Join them in celebrating artistic excellence at the AMP Gala Concert, live from Maison Symphonique in Montreal, happening October 20th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Orchestre Metropolitain will premiere award-winning music by laureates Aharon Harla, Iman Habibi, and Rita Ueda. Learn more at azrielifoundation.org/AMP.
Alan,
Hey.
Long time no see. I thought you got lost. Good thing you found my house.
It's been a long time. It's so good to see you.
That's what it sounded like when filmmaker Alan Schwartz brought his camera crew to the Toronto home of an old Hebrew school chum, Ted Zlotnick. Both men had grown up in Oshawa and were part of a group of 10 Jewish boys who spent 1973 studying for their bar mitzvahs. Theirs was the largest ever bar mitzvah cohort that the tight-knit Jewish community in Oshawa, east of Toronto, had ever had. In the intervening 49 years, the Hebrew school boys mostly lost touch. Many had moved away, they went to school, they started their careers, they had families. During the pandemic, Alan Schwartz decided he wanted to know what happened to his boyhood friends. So his docuseries was born. It's called Tracking the 10. And it's just been released on national Canadian television.
We were basically the Maccabees. We were all very proud. We all stuck together. We all had these great classes. We all had great times.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Monday, October the 3rd, 2022. Welcome to the CJN Daily, a podcast of the Canadian Jewish News, sponsored by Metropia. Alan Schwartz's folks helped build Oshawa's first synagogue, Beth Zion, on King Street, where he and the others would have their bar mitzvahs. You might have heard of Schwartz's late mother, Marion. She was famous in her own right, hosting a popular TV talk show called The Bubby Break for seniors. For his film, Alan spent months doing detective work to find the other 9 boys, to learn how that seminal experience of being Jewish in small-town Oshawa impacted their lives today as they mark turning 62. Some have grandkids, one survived prostate cancer, there have been a couple of divorces, and the loss of their own parents. We spoke with Alan Schwartz, the filmmaker, and with 2 of the other 10, Evan Kalnitsky, a retired social services worker, and Dave Swartz, an emergency room doctor who lives in Thornhill. They had not spoken to each other for years before we put them together for our interview, and Evan was surprised when Dr. Dave disclosed that he had become an observant Jew.
Shabbos? Remember when we went bowling on that Orthodox weekend?
Oh. Listen, it took many years, Evan. It took many years of coaxing but honestly, Evan, what did it for me, what cemented it was, and in the same vein, I want to wish my condolences for you for having lost your dad recently.
Same
recently.
To you. Yeah,
you know,
ago, yeah.
I remember, Evan, I treated your mom on at least one occasion, maybe a few occasions in the hospital.
She told me.
Yeah. But, you know, Evan, it was with the passing of Dad that really, you know, cemented my observance, because, you know, I wasn't finding comfort from any other idea, any other, you know, address at all. And our Yiddishkeit is what began, you know, answering some of my questions and just making me feel whole again.
I'm sorry for about your parents as well. It's a sad, all of our parents. You know?
All of our parents.
So you guys were all together in a bar mitzvah class. Alan,
yes.
How did this idea come about for you to track the 10?
I often wondered what happened to these amazing guys. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Sunday, I spent 2 hours with them in our Hebrew school. And then during our bar mitzvah classes, it was more intense. And then we all kind of lost track of each other. And I just wondered, I knew David was practicing emergency medicine and was doing a phenomenal job. And, I have to salute him for his work during the pandemic. And again, David, thank you for your courage and for being there for people. And Evan was always the straw that stirred the drink. And I just wanted to find out how life had treated them, and if they were still the same kind of people as adults as they were as kids. And I can honestly and truthfully tell you, without giving away everything, that I wasn't disappointed for 1 second. They were all phenomenal representatives of our bar mitzvah class, of Jewishness and of life, and exceptionally good people.
Now, not everybody wanted to participate. You guys maybe haven't seen the whole series, but I saw some people didn't want to. How did that work out, and why?
It's really interesting. One guy sent a very lovely note that basically explained that he was very involved with owning a series of franchises of a major business, and he was concerned in regards to dealing with employees and dealing with suppliers, and he just wanted to keep his personal life personal, and that was fine. The second guy I never heard from. I basically was relayed messages via his mother. The third guy was the most unbelievable, simply because his father was a Cohen who was very instrumental at running the Beth Zion synagogue in Oshawa for all the years. And he didn't have the courtesy or the decency to say, kiss my butt, didn't send an email, didn't return a phone call, nothing.
He ghosted you.
Not only did he ghost me, he disappointed me.
So, Dr. Schwartz, I guess I can call you
Dave.
Dave.
Yeah, please.
You were saying before that you became religious. You became more religious. But when you guys were going to cheder, I don't know, is that what you called it, or Sunday school?
Cheder, sure.
Cheder. At that age, the boys could not sit for so long after a whole day of school. It just is impossible. How do you remember cheder? Were you guys into it, or are you were
Yeah, it was just normal. It was part of life.
Look, then it's as you describe it. I wouldn't say that we were so into it. And yes, it was an after-school program, and like Alan said, it was 3 times a week. And yet, like Evan says, true enough, it just became a part of our life. I guess, in Oshawa, growing up in Oshawa, I guess we all sensed that there was, we had to do something to maintain our heritage and to give credence to who we were. And so we accepted it. I mean, did we play around? Did we sometimes test the teachers? Sure we did, but I didn't see any of us trying to duck the classes or to check out while we were there. That was just our other side that we kept largely hidden from view while growing up in Oshawa, which was about as secular and blue collar in those days as it came.
Tell me more about that. You kept it hidden. What does that look like, and why? That's very interesting.
Well, because I often said that growing up in Oshawa was pretty much like growing up on a different planet. We were so different than our counterparts in Toronto. I mean, cousins, of mine in those days, I mean, they would go to school, they knew other Jewish people. Look, Evan and Alan, you guys grew up, a little further away from my neighborhood. I mean, in my entire school growing up, there might have been 1 or 2 other Jews in different grades that I didn't know well because they weren't part of our group of 10. So it was very, very much something where your Jewishness was very hidden, and in those days in Oshawa, that was probably a good place to keep it hidden from view, unfortunately, because it was just something that was not so well known about, and acceptance was not always readily available,
So were you guys
from that point
bullied?
of
Was
view.
there anti-Semitism? Do you want to give me an example? And
Yeah.
you wanted
I was basically bullied, beaten up quite a few times in public school, after school. Once my brothers went to high school, it was just something I lived with.
But you know what, Ellen? We all had to learn how to fight. And yeah, when we had to have our confrontations, we had our confrontations and we dealt with it.
It makes us who we are.
That's right.
now that you've gone through this, did you find that people are still connected to the Jewish community? They still go to shul, or they still feel Jew? Obviously with Dr. Swartz you are, but the other ones, and maybe you can speak to what that looks like in your own life, Alan.
I'm extremely proud to be Jewish. I go to shul on Shabbos on a regular basis. We have a beautiful shul in Whitby, Chabad of Whitby, with Rabbi Bornstein. I'm very, very proud. And the commonality of the guys, I don't know about how religious everybody is, but very proudly Jewish. All the guys held on to their Jewishness. I actually think that their appearances, David's, Evans, Martin, Larry, Sean, all the guys who came on, I'm sorry if I left a couple people out, all the people who came on were making a very strong statement that the past did influence their present.
Yes.
And that they never shirked their Jewishness. And, you know, it's funny because running into Evan was a guy who was at synagogue when we were growing up every Saturday, and he amazed me during the docuseries. It's not in the episode that is currently available, but Evan remembered the Hebrew names of all the guys that were called up for Elias.
We had a better Jewish education than half the kids I used to go to camp with that were from Toronto or Montreal.
Wow. And Evan, you went to camp in those days. You went to Camp Moshava, and you came back like a pro. You came back knowing how to daven, understanding the halachot way better than all the rest of us.
How did you each feel about having participated in this, and what emotions, did it bring up for you while you were doing it?
Go ahead, David.
All right. Beautiful. And like Alan said, it's easy for us to sense the neshama in Evan and in the rest of the participants. We're a result of the forces that were at play to mold us in the first place. And I see the strong Jewish core in Evan and in Alan, and the sensitivity and the menschlichkeit. I see it and I sense it in both of them, and it reaffirms my faith in the background that we had.
So now that the next step is, Evan, how has it been for you to be on camera and remember all these things with people that you really haven't seen in so many years?
I agree with everything you said.
So now, don't you guys all want to be together and get like a dinner somewhere?
Alan's promised us. Yeah. Alan's promised us a reunion.
We actually tried a few times, Alan, to get the reunion happening, but I did make a commitment to all the guys that we are definitely going to have it happen.
Well, we better do it before Baycrest starts calling us,
By the way, Alan Schwartz even found the rabbi who taught them all, Rabbi Eliezer Langer. He was an American rabbinical student at the time, just 27 years old, in Oshawa for his first official posting, before he was even ordained. Langer's now in his early 70s and works as a rabbi in Austin, Texas. And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. Integrity, community, quality, and customer care. Today's listener shout-out goes to Malvina Clegg of Montreal. She wrote in about our episode about the death of Queen Elizabeth because her late father, Leo Clegg, had fond memories of the Queen's father, King George, when Leo was rescued from the Holocaust and taken from Berlin to England after Kristallnacht in 1938. Now, he wasn't on a Kindertransport train. It was a separate and much less well-known British rescue project called the Kitchener Camp, literally an old World War I camp where 4,000 Jewish young men were rescued in 1939. They weren't allowed to stay very long, though. Britain shipped many of them out to Canada as enemy aliens in 1940, where Leo Clagg stayed in an internment camp south of Montreal for 2 years before he was freed. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again Tuesday for our show on the eve of Yom Kippur.